Welcome today to Karen Goodson, Julie Ferris, to the Legacy Life podcast and this family legacy series. I'm really excited to have you on today. And it's funny, before I pressed record today, we were just talking about how I don't edit this podcast, how it is a conversation, it is authentic, it is just how we are, and you get to hear us getting to know each other, and I'm really excited about today's topic because it's something that I've been noticing a lot in the world and in my group, in my parenting group. I've been having more and more people come to my group who would describe their children as being neurodiverse. So I'm really interested in this topic because I know it's one that you both specialize in. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Great to have you here. So, so for people who don't know what it means, can you explain, please? So I'll ask that question to Julie because there's two of you.
Okay, right. So we are basing our experience on as parents of neurodiverse children.
Yeah.
So we see society labels neurodiverse as being something different to the norm, but that norm is classified by society. So we see neurodiversity as something special, as a gift, as a sensitivity that enables that person, that child, to be very open, to be very aware, spiritually aware, potentially. And part of what we do with the Gateway to the Avatar in You is to support these children with the support that makes sense for the children and loved ones, but to also help them untap their gifts and talents. Mm-hmm. So we see these children, these adults, as having particular gifts and talents. So that's our take on neurodiversity. Obviously, we've had the experience of parents of neurodiversity in the more human type form, the day-to-day as well.
Okay, thank you for sort of explaining your take on that. And Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
I suppose society looks at people and gives them a label that identifies the deficit, whereas we look at the asset and the gifts that these children, adults hold. We're all different, and I struggle with this whole concept of labeling and have done for years. But it's interesting how life revolves around this need for labels. So all through my son's childhood, he's 21 now. Yes, he's different, and okay, school was a challenge and we stopped doing school. School refused to assess, so he's just different, that's fine. But now, coming out into the workplace, people want this label, they want the assessment, they want to prove that there's something different, that you have these limitations, and I find it very frustrating.
Yes. Yes,
that's sort of the passion behind what drives us, isn't it? Everybody's unique. Stop labeling, stop putting people in boxes and making life even more difficult. There.
Yeah, well, I love that. I was thinking before we came on today, and about my lack of understanding, I think, about the term neurodiverse, and because I was thinking, but surely I suppose I was sort of thinking that, well, we're all diverse, we're all neurodiverse, like
Exactly.
surely that is the norm.
Yeah.
And everything else, because we're not the same, and we have different sensitivities, and there is a continuum rather than, you know, of diversity. It's not black and white, you know, and there is a continuum. So, you know, from that point of view, I was thinking, well, we're all neurodiverse, surely, because there is this kind of, that's sort of how I kind of see things, that there is no normal, you know. I don't know, well, there is but I think that's the normal. I think being diverse is the normal, like we're not,
absolutely,
yes,
I think that is the normal. And I think this kind of lack of acknowledgement, well, I think it's to do with societal structures, and schooling structures as well, you know, for categorize, like you say, for this categorizing and labeling. But so I've been curious, really, about, you know, I suppose seeing more and more people describing their children in this way, and how helpful that is, I suppose, is a question, you know. So I'm going to ask you that question. You know, do you feel it's helpful to be able, for parents to be able to describe their children in this way, so that to create more awareness?
Answer. I've already ranted.
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it, Julie.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't like the labeling. That's, you know, as we've said already, we're all different, and we're all on a continuum, a broad spectrum, if you like. Some parents may appreciate having the support of other parents who are experiencing similar issues with children, for want of a better word, or discussing parenting strategies. For example, oh, my child doesn't sleep well. I remember my son never slept well as a child, always very scared of the dark, for example, anxious. And it did help speaking to other parents, knowing that there are other parents who are experiencing that. That isn't necessarily because of neurodiversity. It's just a fact of those emotions and anxieties, that and that not feeling safe at some points, that he had that difficulty sleeping. So I think it does help to be able to think, okay, that's the difficulty we're experiencing in the family. Maybe let's reach out to a group, or let's look at some resources to help with that. So I think that definitely does help, because you feel you're not alone then. So that's why, having been through the parenting and continuing to go through the parenting, that's why we know that it can be overwhelming for people to deal with certain characteristics or traits that appear with their children. So that's what drives us as well to do these resources, to give people something to help them, to empower them, and to support them for use within their own family.
Yeah.
One of the issues is that society, as we said before, needs to put everybody into boxes. But if you can operate outside of the system, so if you can homeschool your child, it's much easier to value the diversity, the unique gifts that they bring, and nurture them in that way, which is why our bigger vision is to create a schooling type environment that does that. But at the moment, so many parents are stuck with this: you have to get your child labelled to access the support they need in school.
Yes, yes.
And that's a whole other wave of frustration, isn't it? That you don't want to live with these labels, but unless you've got the assessments done, you can't access, the schools can't access funding, therefore the child doesn't get the support, and it further exacerbates the challenges. Maybe I don't like to use the word challenge, but really the difficulty of being in this chaotic world for all of us.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And, you know, let's face it, getting those kind of assessments done as well, or, you know, can take a long time. You know, people can be on waiting lists for a long time, can't they?
Yeah.
To
Yes.
even be seen. And I mean, it's interesting for me because I suppose, you know, I've been thinking about, because I've supported a lot of parents who have, you know, have children who have neurodiversity, but it feels like a newer term to me. I think, I know it's not new, but I suppose my awareness and language has kind of changed a bit over the last, I don't know, 12 years since I've been doing this work, you know. And I know that you know, the skills that I support parents with and what have you, you know, helps all kinds of situations. But you know, I suppose it's a bit like you were saying, Karen, about being able to tailor things to your children and your specific needs, and you know, you're able to do that one-to-one with your child more easily than if they're in a classroom with 30 children, you know, with home learning. But also you know, having resources and skills to be able to support them and support yourself is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. When you consider as well, Sarah, that society expects communication in certain types of ways.
Yes.
Doesn't it? And so that's the resources that we've created are encouraging a communication in a different type of way, in a way that the child is comfortable with, and not necessarily verbal. Everything seems to be verbal. It's using the diverse range of communication, sign language, just what feels right to you, what you sense in your body as right. So it's all those different types of communication that we want to kind of open up in our tools as a good way, sort of a different way to communicate, really.
Yeah. It's lovely to hear that, you know, that sort of perspective on being able to, I mean, I talk a lot about holding space for our children, so it's not just about the kind of practical tools and stuff, but it's also about energetically, you know, that there is an energetic communication between us and our children, and you know, that's maybe not talked about so much, you know, that, I mean, when we, for instance, regulate our breath, you know, if we're feeling anxious and we are able to slow down our breathing and regulate ourselves, our children feel that when they're nearby. You know, our children feel that when they're in the next room. Yeah. You know, and but also, I mean, I co-slept with my children, and you know, I'm aware that, you know, as parents, we help to regulate our children's bodies, you know, our babies, you know, when they're tiny. So we are, and I was, oh my goodness, I was reading this article yesterday, and I was like, I was just so moved by it, partly because of my personal situation, but it was talking about how we have mothers have cells from our babies in our bodies.
Yeah, awesome.
And so that we carry those cells. So because of the, you know, through the placenta, and when we're growing the baby, their cells come into our body. So, you know, and I remember when I was pregnant feeling like, you know, you just don't get ill when you're pregnant. It's like, it feels like you've got like a superpower. And one of mine when I was pregnant was I had a really heightened sense of smell. Like I was like, oh, somebody's smoking. And it was like 100 yards down the road. I could smell it. I'm like, what? And it's like, so that felt like a superpower. But I think this kind of heightened functionality of our bodies comes from the cells from our babies. I mean, that's incredible. So that if we're getting a bit under the weather, their cells go to support us and vice versa, you know. And I just think that's beautiful. But after they're born, that we have them inside our bodies. They're
quite a few years. Yeah.
For a long time after. I mean, in this article, it was saying like somebody's in somebody's brain like 18 years after, so the child's 18, you know, their brain cells in the brain of this person. I'm just like, wow,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I love
such a connection, isn't it? Such a connection. Yeah.
And so you know, this sense of, and it made me also think about, you know, no wonder, and I'm sure you've had this experience where your child falls over or something, or they cry out and your womb goes,
oh yes.
And you know, breastfeeding mums, you know,
yeah,
and your boobs go,
yes.
Is that, you know, you have that deep connection on a cellular level, and I just think, wow, that's phenomenal, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And our joy is connecting on the energetic level, the spiritual level.
Yes.
To facilitate that connection with the parent and the child, and anybody really, isn't it? It's because connection doesn't have to rely on verbal language. It's connection through the heart.
Yes.
And when we meet people, we start with that heart connection, and go from there. And Julie's started a course that perhaps she'd like to talk about, the Parent-Child Connection, that we're expanding now, which is designed specifically to do that. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so
oh, beautiful.
It's in early days, but just to help, like Karen says, parents and children, or caregivers and their children, to just connect on that energetic level, that whole soul level. So there's eight areas that we cover. So things like energy clearing, so keeping your own energy clear, knowing how to set your own boundaries. So you've got the tools that you can recognize when you're absorbing other people's stuff, and that's unhelpful for you. It's been reflected in your child, and there's difficult atmospheres around. And we also cover raising your energy vibration, just how to uplift, like work on your own personal development, uplift yourself and start that connection, which will make that connection with your child easier. And then moving on to amplifying your intuition. So really trusting yourself, because a lot of people don't trust that they know what they need or what they want, or that their children know that as well. So it's bringing that trust. And we give lots of tips and techniques, and there's going to be videos and meditations and energy tools to support you as parents or caregivers and your children. And then we're doing self-care, the importance of self-care, because you can't give if you're empty yourself. So it's keeping your tank filled up, so that there is something for you to give within the family life. And then we have 4 areas which kind of focus on the children. So we cover relaxing, grounding, and sleeping. And for me, sleeping is a big one, because without sleep, everything can be really quite tense within a household. Then we cover emotions, helping children manage emotions, and interactions with others, this communication, and opening doors to different ways to communicate with your family through different, we've got our avatar cards, which can be used non-verbally as a non-verbal communication tool. This is how I'm feeling. Your child can show you how they're feeling and what they need. And we also cover protection, just how you can talk about boundary setting with your children. So, obviously, children can be influenced by their peers or by energies around them. So it's giving them the tools, working with them to have the tools to protect themselves. And then the last one is just opening everybody up to their gifts and talents, just helping them, the children, to reclaim those. And parents, caregivers as well can go on that journey with their own gifts and talents. And it's all underlying, this is all that energy connection between parent and child, and really forging and strengthening that connection. And so we're hoping to give parents the tools to work through this process and to do this for themselves, so with support and guidance, but then get to a stage when they can maintain that energy connection themselves, or they could come, later on down the line, they can come to us for support or a session, and we do add in sessions in with the program. So we're quite excited, aren't we, Karen?
Yes.
About it. Yeah,
it sounds great. And I love the way that you're coming very much from this spiritual and energetic approach, and having ways of expressing feelings. I talk about this a lot. The foundation of the kind of skills that I share with people are, the foundation is empathy and the supporting our children and ourselves to express our feelings and acknowledge those feelings before trying to do anything else, and so it's great to have your cards sound great at having those kind of non-verbal ways as well of I've been seeing more and more resources like this. There was with the summit that we were speaking at, there was a lady with her mood boards as well, and having,
I saw that,
different things like this, I think, are so great for our children. And parents have these tools to support them to be able to express without not non-verbally as well. And you mentioned sign language as well earlier as well, didn't you?
Yes.
My son said that. He said, I want everybody to have to learn sign language so that they know how difficult it is for me to speak.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's really good, because if
So
you can learn to sign.
Does your son use sign language?
We're going to learn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we did Makaton as children. Or British, no, not British. Yeah, it was Makaton.
Probably Makaton.
It was Makaton, yeah. And this was before it was on CBBC, when Justin,
yes,
I've forgotten his name now, but we used to love it. But we'd already been I used to work with in an environment where we used that with adults all the time. So it's a shame they don't remember it now, the children. But
yeah, I suppose it's like any language, if you don't carry on using it. My daughter was just saying to me this morning, actually, because I used British Sign Language with my children when they were little.
Good, yes.
And I know, and there were lots of singing and signing things that came up and what have you.
Yeah.
But I could already sign. So, and my partner as well, actually, which is how we met. We actually met.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
Sign language together. So that's how we kind of met, which was quite nice. so we signed with our children when they were babies, and yeah, but my daughter was saying, well, I can't remember lots of it now. And I'm like, well, but you know, when you don't use a language, it does kind of fade, doesn't it?
But you need it at the beginning of life when the children are pre-verbal, and then towards the end of the life when we're getting our hearings going.
I know. Do you know, the last few days I've been just like, I'm struggling with my hearing, and I'm like, what's going on? I just had a birthday, so I'm just like,
oh well.
my mother-in-law was staying with us over the half-term break, and her hearing's getting worse and worse. She's getting quite deaf. So it would be great for her to learn, although it's hard if you've got nobody to use it with, you know. So I think it's kind of tricky because she's, you know, on her own quite a lot, and also, you know, it's only helpful to communicate if you've got other people who understand it to speak with, you know. So but having these non-verbal ways of being able to communicate makes a massive difference, a huge difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, with just, I mean, my eldest had quite a large vocabulary. By the time she went to nursery at 1, I was like, and it's interesting because they have their own version of signs as well. So I was like, well, this is her version of this, and this is her version of this. Like a whole list. But it's interesting because I don't know how much they took on board. I think they probably, because we understood her a lot, you know, whereas I think then going into a nursery setting, they probably didn't understand what she was trying to tell them, you know.
Well, it's great that she's been creative though, and just, you know,
making
changed it and made it her own.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly, you know, their functionality with being able to do certain signs, you know. So like instead of butterfly, her butterfly was like that was, you know, which looks different.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
but it's still, but that, you know, she's signing butterfly. So but being able to say, you know, that she wants a drink, or you know, sign milk was her first sign actually. So that was really cool, and that was like at 4.5 months, that was her first sign. So that's pretty cool to be able to say, you know, I want some milk. So yeah,
and then explaining later how that sign comes to be. You're milking the cow.
Yeah, I was the cow.
Yes. I remember those days. Yeah,
I was the cow. So I always ask people on this podcast about what they feel their legacy is. And so I am going to ask you that question to kind of finish up today. And it's thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. I feel like we didn't dive so much into your experiences with your children, which would have been interesting as well. But yeah, what do you feel your legacy is, Karen?
Okay, so my sense is, or my passion is, to create sanctuary. So to create a space. So the background behind me is a sanctuary we're creating in Spain, where everyone is welcome to connect with the earth. So one of the issues we feel is grounding is so missing in many people's lives. So my legacy is creating this space, this awesome space where you can be who you are, using the resources that we've already created. Sorry, Julie, I'm not leaving you anything. But
it's all right.
But the connection with the community of like-minded people, and it's essentially the new earth. That's my legacy.
New earth. Wow.
No small thing, but a contribution to new earth. Yes.
You know, that's great, and having that vision, and that's it, contributing towards, you know, like you say, this sense of a new way of being in the world is lovely. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So I do feel like because I was thinking, should I ask you about your children? But I think, you know, you've kind of covered what drove you to really do this work, with your experiences with your children. Julie, how old are your children? Because I know Karen's son is 21.
So my son is 9.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
But Ethan, he's a key part of the creation of the resources.
Oh,
So,
that's brilliant.
yeah, do you want to expand?
Yeah, so for example, with the cards, he would say what he thought, and then for the images, which are very powerful, we had an illustrator, we'd give the illustrator our concept and she drew it, and then Ethan would review it and say, oh no, you need an eagle there. He was very precise, or we need a lion behind the lady. So he was bringing in those different energies within the image of the card as well as the words, and with the activations we've done, the sleep and emotions, and protection. So he was a key part of that as well. And he's now going, oh, you need an app, Mum. You need to do this on an app.
You need an app.
Yeah.
You need an app. That's the next thing,
Yeah.
Mum.
And he did laugh out loud when he found out Karen and I had a YouTube channel. He was like, no.
Brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, so he is a very key part. Absolutely. And the resources work. They do absolutely work with him. And so and he is, like Karen says, he is such a key part in knowing which way we're going to go and receiving the guidance for what we need to do.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I love that he's so involved and such a driving force within your business. Thank you so much. So if anybody is wanting to connect with Julie and Karen, you can check out below the podcast. You'll see some links there, so you can click on those links and check out what they're up to. Well, thank you so much for being on the Legacy Life podcast and sharing the gorgeous work that you're doing.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you,
Sarah.
Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you.